Good morning. If you're finding me for the first time, my name is Penny. I come here a few days a week. My goal is to inspire you. I hope you listen and learn one or two things by the time I'm done talking that is going to help you to live a life with purpose. So we spoke about, I'm still using these notes from my training. On the first day, on Monday, we spoke about people being people pleasers. And then yesterday we spoke about being codependent, and today we want to talk about cutting toxic or removing toxic people out of your life. There's something a lot of us don't know, and by the way, if you've not liked my page, please do that. Share this video, invite your friends. Sharing is caring. And I have a YouTube channel. For those of you who have friends who are not on Facebook, you can invite them to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That means a whole lot to me, and I appreciate that. So a lot of us, we don't really pay attention. A lot of us have childhood trauma, Salome, good morning, that we carry for the rest of our life, and we carry this trauma to our children, then our children, like 2-3 generations have been going through trauma. And for those of us who are Christians, I don't know about the Muslims. If you are Christian, you know about the Old Testament, and we've spoken about Cain and Abel. We read their story. We read about Joseph and what the brothers did to Joseph. If you're a Christian, you know the stories in the Old Testament. If you actually read the Old Testament, which some of us did when we were very young, you will know that there's nothing that is happening now that never happened before. It is a repeat of everything. The reason why we read the Bible, we needed to understand how to react to these situations if you ever find yourself in those situations. And this morning, I want to talk about toxic family members, or rather toxic parents. The African culture teaches children to just accept parents how they are. But you know what? Toxic parents did not choose to be toxic. Sometimes it was carried on to them, and now they pass it on to the children. They are toxic because they have no awareness. A parent who has awareness, if they make a mistake, they'll catch themselves. And that is why when I come on Facebook, or when I've been speaking on whatever platform I speak on behalf of myself. Some of my siblings don't follow me. Some of my siblings are blocked. My mom is not on Facebook. My father is dead. My husband doesn't know my childhood story. And nobody else knows my story except my story. I grew up in a toxic home. I grew up in a polygamous home. I saw the toxicity. Not all my siblings saw what I saw. And I can tell you, for the years that I grew up in that home, I have seen what has been passed on through my other siblings, and I see how we normalize abuse. So, I saw a question this morning where somebody was asking, if you had to give your mom a ride and your wife a ride, they were kind of asking the man, who are you going to let sit in the front seat? This question comes all the time. It is just a question, but in the Bible, your spouse comes first. Your mother is your father's wife. Your wife is the mother to your children. I don't know why people always twist this thing and say, my mother comes first. Your mother will never come first. If you're married, your spouse comes first because she's the mother to your children. Your husband is the father to your children. That is why you have a mother. So now, when we spoke about codependency, we are trained to control people. And you know, when you grow up in a family where it was toxic, you just find yourself being a caretaker of everybody else. And we said yesterday, you neglect yourself. Okay? You let people hurt you knowingly. You normalize abuse. You let people hurt you. You allow people who have hurt you to be in your space. You become a people pleaser because you're so insecure. You don't want to lose your friends. So you're afraid to tell people that is not okay, or that hurts. Or if you found a man or a woman, you're just clinging on to them. You just want them to fill that gap that was never filled with your parents. You struggle in creating boundaries. You don't know when to create boundaries and tell your sister, you can't do this. Tell your brother, you cannot do this. Tell your husband, that is not okay. Tell your children, that is not okay. Because some of these children, I don't know, it could be, it's genetic, they're just as bad. So you don't create those boundaries. Okay? You feel guilty when you're telling people, I'm not okay with what you just did. You find yourself just feeling some kind of way when you put a stop to something because you're living in fear. You're afraid. What if my sister doesn't talk to me? What if my husband leaves me? What if my wife leaves me? You're living in fear. And then you don't have value for yourself. I'm reading a book right now. It's a very nice book. I'm on chapter 2. And guess what? They said in the second chapter, they are telling you the journey or the way to succeed is the words you're going to tell yourself. Let me see what it was so simple. The simple words, I think I'd like to share them. What did they say? I'll get them last. But it's what you decide. You're like, you know what, this is what I'm going to become. What you think is what you become. Those are the words. Okay? So you don't trust people. Lack of trust. It's like people here, you can't tell them anything. You can't consult anybody. You do not trust anybody. You don't trust your spouse. You don't trust your mother. Because everybody has betrayed you. But if you grew up in these homes, your parents that you're supposed to go to in your lowest, you can't go there because you're afraid to go there. Okay? And then the biggest thing, you don't seek for help. I was talking to a friend this morning and I said, we the Africans, which is most of my following, we don't seek help. You need to talk to a therapist. You need someone to tell you that that's not okay. We are losing a lot of women to gender-based violence because they are normalizing abuse. A man slaps you. A man pushes you down the stairs. A man takes your key. A man takes your car. A man is doing all these things. And you just make up and you're like, it's okay. It's because we are not seeking help. Why? Because we don't want to be alone. You don't want to feel like, oh, you know, now if he goes, what am I going to do? I didn't even know there are people who are just staying with people, just to stay with people because they don't want to be alone. You need to learn to be alone. You need to learn to stay by yourself, your quiet time. I'm always alone and I'm okay, and I still have friends. In the process of doing all that, you become so controlling. You want to control your husband. You want to control your wife. You want to control your kids. You want to control your co-workers. There are people who just want to control you everywhere. And once you start controlling people, they don't want you as a friend. With time, they just cut you off. And let me tell you, if you're not careful, your childhood is going to follow you for the rest of your life. The trauma that was inflicted in you because of your environment and what was around you is going to follow you for the rest of your life. Be compassionate with yourself. Give yourself grace. Today, that is the challenge I have for you. Give yourself grace. Penina, I decided at a very young age that, you know what, I am going to be by myself. Let me tell you, I depend on myself 100%. Why? Because I knew at a very young age I could only count on myself. And I'm here by myself. My greatest fear was not being able to afford food and shelter. I wanted my own house. I wanted my own independence. And God blessed me, and I met a man that I told from day one that I am coming with full of trauma. I had a whole 18-wheeler of trauma. I am full of trauma. And I told him, listen, I know you have a different background, but I want you to give me grace. Don't put more trauma on me. And I know you have your own baggage, whatever you've lived with, I don't know. But my husband doesn't seem to have issues that I can even come here and tell you that he tells me. Because when I asked him, how was your childhood? He told me it was great. My childhood wasn't great. I was sharing a father with 21 other children, 20 other children. That is trauma. Cut those toxic people off. That is the challenge I have for you. Go to YouTube, like my channel, invite your friends, cut everybody and everything that is toxic in your life. And if you can, grab this book. It's going to show you that you need to start your own life by cutting toxic people off your life so you can start your own life. Cheers and God bless you.